12:30. He's anticipating traffic on I-25 coming down, so wanted to leave a little extra time. I'm going to go put up a bunch of. I'm going to Chris Christie it on I-25.
A bunch of Chris
Make
Christies
it
on
hard for
I-25.
him to get here. Well, I can do it. It all works.
Good morning. Welcome. We're starting a few minutes after we expected, but welcome to the crowd. We'll go around the horn and make introductions. Norm?
Good morning. Norm Stain, Teller County Commissioner, Vice Chair.
That's Jill Gabler. Tyler Stevens, Green Mountain Falls.
Bill Murray, Colorado Springs.
Sharon Thompson, City of Fountain.
Turner Smith, Town of Rama.
Nicole Nicoletta, Manitou Springs.
Ron Chisholm, Deputy Garrison Commander, Fort Carson.
Ken Olson, representing Colonel Troy Dunn from the Air Force Academy.
Rocky Scott, Colorado Transportation Commissioner, District 9.
John Doucette, 21st Space Wing, Peterson Air Force Base.
Neil Levy, Woodland Park.
Rick Sonnenberg, Acting Director, PPACG.
Stan Vanderwerf, El Paso County Commissioner.
Bruce Davis, City of Victor.
Mark Waller, El Paso County Commissioner and Secretary.
Andy Pico, City of Colorado Springs, and your chair. We have agenda approval. Any changes to the agenda?
Move to approve.
Did you have it? Oh, that's the, yeah. Okay. Have motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Public comments, topics not on the current agenda. Yes, Deborah, come on up.
Deborah Stout-Meininger, community advocate, citizen scientist. If you didn't hear Channel 13 news yesterday, there was some comments that we had the privilege to saying on live camera about the dangers of the wind turbine farms, not to go in there if you have a pacemaker, heart problems, breathing problems, arrhythmia, epilepsy, things like that. Those infrasound in that area is a big health danger. In addition to that, though, we do have another problem with the wind turbine infrasound. And this I've not found in other sites notated, but I do know we have a rather unique topography that the infrasound travels in with the mountains and the canyons, like what our highways are built into. And the infrasound, when it hits the walls of earth and such, they go through the walls and go inside of houses, but it bounces off basically of packed earth, those geological formations. But what it does do is it does it uncorrupted, which means it doesn't dissipate that way. It just continues to travel back and forth. We have some issues out there where people that were on medication, including taking marijuana for pain, were finding that their medications were no longer working. And things like the marijuana, if they were in the turbine area, they didn't work. And if they got out of the turbine area, their medications worked fine. And upping doses of your normal prescription medications sometimes work and sometimes they don't. But we have a higher rate of emergencies in that area ever since the turbines were turned on because of it. My cautions is that some areas I've heard, like people who are moving from Pueblo with their children with epilepsy, that they had them on the hemp-type formula from the oils of the hemp plants to control their seizures. That when they got into Colorado Springs area, those medications stopped working. And one lady was in the paper that she was moving back home because of that particular fact. Now, if they stay down in Pueblo where there's no turbines, it still keeps working. If they move up to the Springs, it does not. And we have documented up to 50 some odd decibels in households in Manitou up through Highway 24. It starts at over 90 decibels in the wind turbine area. So you have this whole area in between that is inundated with that. The medication issue is a big thing because I did hear of some areas in Manitou, which is the kind of residence zone there, areas where there's high incidences of overdoses. And the mentality of most people who are using certain drugs like marijuana is they're looking for that kick. They're taking it recreationally. It's like if you keep drinking your liquor and it doesn't give you that buzz, you drink more or you find stronger liquor. Well, drugs are the same way. And I have a feeling, I haven't had a moment to present that to the Manitou City Council yet, but I needed to bring that up as an issue, that when they don't feel that that stuff is working, that marijuana, the other drugs, they're not getting that kick anymore, that they're going to higher doses, and that could explain pockets of areas where there is high overdoses that they are having to have these emergency calls on. And I'm running with a lot of different issues that I'm working on at the moment, so this was my one way to get it out there, because I do know that they're planning the Rush Creek project. They're planning more projects to do wind turbines east of Pueblo, in Pueblo County. These are both going to have the same kinds of issues, and the Rush project will increase our issues in the Manitou corridor in the Colorado Springs area exponentially once those go online, which can also affect all our military bases as well, and the instrumentation on them, because it does affect that. That's one of the reasons they can't ride through those areas, and why it's supposed to stay away from the areas of airports. I need people to keep that in mind, share that information, keep it in mind, because denying it does not make it go away. Denying does not make it happen. To have Nextera go on TV and say, oh, you've never heard these kind of complaints before, is getting really lame, because there's more and more documentation. The people who live out there spend tens of thousands of dollars having a professional study done, and it shows it. Canada has a study that they took 3 years to do up there. That shows the infrasound and the health effects of it. But the one thing they didn't mention was the effects on medications and on recreational drugs, I'll call it that. So that can add to overdose issues, as well as existing medical issues becoming becoming worse because the medication that they're on is not working. If you're in these turbine areas, that is what will happen as well. That's one of the items I don't see addressed in those studies yet. So I wanted to come and warn everyone about that, because we did have that minor media coverage yesterday on Channel 13. I wanted to make sure that you knew why we were saying that, why we asked for trying to get that information out. That is also why...
Okay, Deb, can I ask you to finish up?
That's also why when they gave tours to elected officials out there, when they first opened up and had the turbines running, why they always turned the turbines off, because they couldn't take a chance anyone having a medical condition, having an episode, or dying while they're out there on a tour. So think about that, keep it in mind, but we got more problems coming if that Rush Creek starts out east. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Public comment. Okay, moving on. The next item is a board photo. You have a camera.
Seriously?
I'm always...
Can I borrow your jacket?
That's why you came dressed so nice.
Wait a minute. I was in a suit last month.
That's true.
One in the back on this side, we can all kind of like congregate back here. Get some at the our table to kind of sit down.
Yeah, because we're
You
going
guys
to
can actually stay at the table, but we can get some people behind you.
Oh, those to the table to stay here and everybody else grab behind? All right. Wait, no, we stay. Oh.
This could be a security issue with all the...
Oh, good point. Take the coffee out.
walk out.
Yeah, you guys just stay sitting.
I all sit in this back row.
I qualify.
Yeah, I think so.
They don't even ask me if I'm a senior anymore. They just give me the discount.
That's the professional in here, like a justice on the...
This is just how it's going to show up on the post office wall.
Thank you all for being here for this.
Yes.
That's why we
Wait, I'm a right leaning too here.
Does he go by association?
I'm a centrist.
Manitou?
You're with Raymond, there's no lower place.
Oh, that's an excellent idea. I hadn't thought of that.
There you go.
There you go. Two-man hug here.
Don't do it.
1, 2, 3. Right?
Will it fit on the note card?
People that actually like each other. Thank you, guys.
Of course.
We've actually been trying to get that since the beginning of the year, so that was since December. All right. Next item up is the consent items. Items acted upon as a whole unless they're called up for discussion by a board member or a citizen wishing to address the board. Mr. Steen.
I move to not remove, but call up item 4 Echo for discussion, please.
Okay, we have 4 Echo. Do we have a second?
So moved.
Okay, we have 4 Echo, so we will call that up for discussion as soon as we have the consent items. Okay, so motion to approve the consent items with 4 Echo removed. Motion a second, and all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, let's go ahead and bring up 4 Echo at this time.
Good morning, I'm Ken Prather, PPACG, Acting Transportation Director. The Amendment 2 to the Unified Planning Work Program, the UPWTP for short, adds federal and local dollars for a project, a road data gathering project that you approved in TIP amendment back in December. In the document, the way the document is structured, that amendment and the funds for it, the federal and the local funds, are scattered over several pages in different configurations, and those changes were highlighted in your packet in yellow. In front of you on the table are some changes that I need to bring to your attention. They were on the table when you came. There should be there's four pages. When I developed the memo for this this item, I was under the impression that the value of the PPRTA and City of Colorado Springs work for data gathering was $445,000, and all of the numbers that are in your packet were based on that figure. In reality, the number is $999,900. So all of the numbers need to be increased to reflect that. And so in the handout that I just gave you, wherever you see the green highlight, that's where those numbers have been changed to reflect the higher value of the city and the RTA projects. So I wanted to ask for your approval of Amendment 2 with the corrected figures.
So what were the original figures?
$445,000. That's what the numbers, all of the numbers in there was based on, was the value of a $445,000 value of PPRTA and City of Colorado Springs work.
Okay.
Should be over twice as high.
So what's on this two-page document are all of the changes
Yes.
that are embedded in Amendment 2?
Mhm.
Okay. So there are no others?
Well, there's a few other pages that had some, there was the addition of some updates for the Title VI and limited English proficiency plans that the board just adopted a few months ago. So those were added. So what was highlighted in yellow is still part of the amendment, and the only change here is what you see in green.
Okay.
Ken, the change is simply updated a report. It's not consequential in terms of different work products or different funding. It's just a matter of keeping information current.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Trustee Smith?
Is this a reflection of the back page where it talks about collecting data for in-kind data gathering?
Yes, sir.
So this did not affect our cash position at all, is that correct?
That's correct. We're using the cash value of the RTA and Colorado Springs work as the match for what the board approved 2 months ago, the $234,190 of federal funds for our portion of this project. And so we're only asking for we only need a $48,000 match, but we're identifying the entire work that the city is doing that we're going to be drawing that match from. So we're certainly not going to be using almost $1 million worth of in-kind services, but that is just for openness and being able to track the funds and the sources. CDOT thought it would be better that we had show the full amount.
Okay. Any other comments or questions?
This is Sharon Thompson, City of Fountain. This is for the entire MPO, right?
Yes, the city is...
Since it includes outside Colorado Springs areas, but inside the MPO,
correct?
Okay.
So between the city, Colorado Springs, and us, we'll have the entire MPO covered.
Okay. Commissioner Steen?
Mr. Chair, I move to approve Amendment 2 to the FY16-17 Unified Planning Work Program with those changes.
Second.
Motion and second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you very much. Next item up, Fort Carson wastewater lift station upgrade.
Good morning, all. I'm Peter Gillespie, PPACG Environmental Program Manager. The project before us is a small project. It's a proposed lift station for Fort Carson, basically upgrading an existing lift station to accommodate the needs of an additional building that this facility will serve. In total, this facility is going to serve it's designed to serve approximately 110 personnel, averaging 7 gallons per minute, 10,000 and change gallons per day, 92 gallons per day per person. They're not going to use that much water, but they've designed it based on that high estimate. Significant aspects of the project. It's an existing project being expanded. The questions were asked by the CAC a couple weeks ago. Will this increase the capacity very much? Will it impact the capacity of the downstream wastewater treatment facility? Well, that facility is permitted for about 4 million gallons per day, and Fort Carson is now using about a third of it, about 1.5 million. So this is not significant. That was a very good question. I get good questions from the CAC, by the way. The Site Application Review Committee, which serves the Water Quality Management Committee, met. We went through some details of it. One of the details that we discussed at some length, and so did the CAC, by the way, again, I tip my hat to them, concerns the time available for storage should power go down. And in this project, it's actually on the low side. They have 4 hours of storage. We normally like to have more than that for a project. However, in this case, and we went through this exhaustively with Fort Carson, the site managers and their engineer, the facility is monitored 24/7. They have contractors on site 24/7. And if something happens, power goes down, they need to address it. Somebody can be there within an hour. And worst case, even if they can't, if it were a blizzard or something like that, they could simply just shut down up the plumbing in those 2 buildings until they got somebody. So there's virtually no probability of the system failing in the sense that wastewater sewage would back up and into the pipes or under the ground or get into the creek or anything like that. So they answered those questions to the satisfaction of the SARC, the Water Quality Management Committee, and the CAC. And all of those bodies recommended that the board consider it for approval. I've looked at it with my own eyes. I've probably lost a couple diopters going through all the details. I didn't wear glasses last week, but I think the project, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have ahead of that. Collectively, the SARC, the Water Quality Management Committee, and the CAC all recommended that the board consider this for approval, as do I. So I'll be happy to answer any questions you have.
Any questions, comments? No comments from Fort Carson? Oh. Mr. Smith. Have a motion? Second. A motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right.
Thank you all. Good day.
Thank you. Action 5B, the 2050 Long Range Transportation Plan Goals.
Good morning. Let's see if this is going to do what I want it to. It's not. Ha. Give me just a moment, folks. Sorry about this.
Oh, you're going the wrong direction. There you go.
Well,
It's still 139. 50 pages.
okay, we're just going to, thank you for telling me that. Otherwise, I'd have kept scrolling down, and that wouldn't have worked. Okay, so as we brought forth to you last month, this is the survey to start the process for the 2050 Long Range Transportation Goals. This survey has been back through after some edits from the board, from the CAC, and from the TAC, back through all of those groups, and now once again back before you. We took a lot of different feedback in on this, really looking to see what ways we could make sure that we were providing and requesting the best information and really clarifying some of it. Would you guys like me to go through the survey all the way through again like we did last time, or?
What changes did you see from last time?
We changed how the greeting came across. We wanted to make sure that we were a little more communicative in bringing out a request for innovative thoughts, and made sure to include some information about this is what life looked like 30 years ago, this is what life looks like now, and this is what life is expected to look like in 30 years for population and lane miles and things like that, so that we would make sure that people understood that we're not asking you what you need now, we're asking you what you think it's going to look like in the future when we're a much bigger city.
Trustee Smith?
Did you get any additional input from CDOT between last month and then?
I did not.
And this did go through the CAC and the TAC, right?
It did indeed.
Yeah.
Sharon Thompson, it says the wording of the goals have been modified slightly in the draft survey. Is that what went back through them? So it hasn't been changed since it went through TAC and CAC? That actually hasn't been changed since you guys saw it last time. That had been changed, and that's one of the reasons that you all wanted me to make sure. So.
Was there any specific questions from anybody in TAC or CAC regarding the length of the survey or the length of the goals you were looking for, anything like that?
There was not. The main comment we got is making sure that the information we request at the end of the survey makes sense and is productive. They actually asked us to switch it up. We were asking for the city and zip code to just take the zip code, age, and gender so that we can make sure we're getting a good wide range, and that was a great suggestion.
Okay. Any other comments, questions? I'll entertain a motion at this time to approve. So I have a motion and a second. Any final comments? All in favor? Aye?
Aye.
All right.
And now you get me again, Colorado legislative updates. So I'm going to tell you that there are some changes from the memo that you originally received, and that is because I messed up. I am.
No.
That never happened.
I know,
No.
but totally human here. I had originally intended to send all of these bills for review through the CAC and TAC, but because of how the legislative session started, I did not. I did end up emailing them to the CAC on the 30th, but the TAC did not ever get to see them, and for that I am very sorry, and we'll make sure this does not continue in the future. But for whatever reason, it just got stuck in my draft file and never got sent. So, I'm sorry. So the memo you saw in your packets said that they saw it and they didn't. The other thing that the memo says or implies is that the MCC supported Senate Bill 11. They did not, but several of their members, which is what I said, did. So it was one of those cases of the MCC as a whole did not, but certain of their members are. So how this process currently works, and one of the things I'm going to be talking to you all about today, the process currently works is I review all the bills that come up, and I say, do these look like they relate in any way, shape, or form to any of our programs? I send them to the staff that are the heads for those programs, and I ask them, does this actually relate to you? They tell me yes or no. They tell me good for us, bad for us. Most of the time I get told, no, we don't need to take a stand on that. That's not going to impact us in any substantial way. When they do, I would like the legislative committee to come back into existence, just subcommittee within the bylaws, to help guide me so that I can send them to you immediately for review, so that I can tell people PPACG board is suggesting approval on this from the legislative committee, and it will be finalized on this date. Some of the reasons for that, some of the bills this month, which we're already off to a great year. House Bill 1054 is a community military cooperation bill. It really is focused on creating partnerships between local governments, military installations, identifying shared service opportunities, reducing costs, and increasing efficiencies. This bill has been greatly advocated for by our chamber and EDC. Our joint land use staff suggested that this would just be an outstanding bill for us to be supporting. It's from local representatives, and we would really like to see it. So the staff is suggesting support. It's being seen today at 1:30. It's scheduled for committee. Because of that, I can't tell anyone until after you all have seen it whether we support it or not, which makes it much harder for people going up there to advocate for this bill to do so. So.
Wait, why can't you do that?
Because I can't unilaterally decide what the board is going to say about a bill.
Yeah.
So until you guys say that you support it.
For today, okay.
So the bills that we are monitoring are House Bill 1054, the community military, or staff is suggesting that we support the following bills, not monitor. House Bill 1054, the community military cooperation. House Bill 171018, which is extending the voter approval window for RTA Regional Transportation Authority mill levy. This is one that PPRTA did vote to support, and all that it does is it allows RTAs to continue a sunset to do mill levy tax instead of sales tax. Not something we're planning on doing according to our PPRTA, but something that our local legislator, Larry Liston, has been very big in, and so has Senator Gardner. House Bill 171031, hearings on Transportation Commission districts. Again, it's one of those ones that is scheduled for review on February 14th, so it's coming up as well fairly quickly. Senate Bill 1711, study transportation access for people with disabilities. This one did come up at the MCC and has come up in several different ways. It's designed to create a pilot study within El Paso and Teller counties to see how we can better serve people with disabilities, which will greatly impact providing transportation services for the aging. It's one of the reasons why we sent this to Transportation, AAA, and our membership and said, hey, what do you think? And they were like, we should be supporting this. It's going to have some good positive impacts. The last two bills are Senate Bill 153, which was listed as not introduced yet when you guys got your packet, which is the Southwest Chief and Front Range Passenger Rail Commission. They are eliminating the old rail commission and instituting a new one that will actually have representatives from PPACG on it to help encourage a rail system along the entire Front Range. This is something that, again, the staff is suggesting support on based on the ways that we see that that could benefit our community. And then last, House Bill 171087 is an Office of Public Guardianship pilot program with our Area Agency on Aging. This public guardianship can really assist in serving seniors who are lacking cognitive ability. So, and in other ways as well. Cognitive ability. That's my nice way of saying it.
No, I didn't catch it.
But what does it do? Public?
So it's letting them create a pilot program to see what they can do. I wonder if Joe's in here and can actually describe public. Can you describe public guardianship for me? Because I can't. They said they liked it.
As we understand it, Joe Urban, Area Agency on Aging. As we understand it, the bill would basically establish a pilot program to look at guardianship for folks who do not have someone who could be appointed as a guardian for them. So basically folks who are underserved or unserved.
How is that different from what we already have?
This is actually a guardianship program rather than, you're talking about different than the ombudsman program?
No. We have a guardianship program. If a senior needs a guardian, you go to court and you get a guardian appointed for finance, medical.
Right. This would streamline that process as I understand it. I think there's still some discussion. It's going to committee shortly, so
February 23rd.
we'll find out what the final is. At this point, it's just preliminary.
So if we don't know what exactly is in it, why would we want to support it?
We're supporting the concept.
The concept.
Well, I support a concept, but you never, I'm not Nancy Pelosi. I read everything before I decide if I'm going to support it or not. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, not real.
Well, we've not.
Who's running it?
I'm sorry?
Lundberg and Young.
Okay.
That tells me it's got wide bipartisan support.
Well, that's why I was looking at who's.
Yeah.
Who's supporting it? So-
It's Lundberg and Young, Republican in the Senate, Democrat in the House.
I saw some hands, but yep, Trustee Smith?
Norm, perhaps you could clarify this, this bill on the rail. You're on the previous stack, have been for a long time. What would this bill do? Do you have any idea? And what do we have now? And does this touch on passenger travel? And is this good? And
I haven't read the bill. I don't know.
okay.
Right now, if you want to take a train anywhere west, you got to take a bus from Denver down to
Pueblo, yeah.
No.
Trinidad.
Oh, down
Raton,
Raton.
and then, or you have to park your car somewhere in Raton and hope it's still there when you get back, when you get off the train. So there isn't an easy way to get on the train around here.
Yeah, so is this,
On your left.
I think, okay, just a second. I think it goes to freight as well, or is it just limited to passenger?
Front Range Passenger Rail Commission.
Yeah,
to
but
oversee the preservation and expansion of Amtrak's Southwest Chief Rail, facilitate development and operation of Front Range Passenger Rail. It is not designed on freight at this point, but I do believe that expanding the passenger opportunities will expand other opportunities.
But did the previous commission or the existing commission cover both, or is it limited to passenger? Would be kind of an open question. Yes, go ahead.
It replaces an existing commission.
Yeah,
Yeah, but
I
don't know if the existing commission does
existing
freight as
commission,
well.
is the existing commission limited to? Kind of a question I got.
Yeah.
Councilmember
Bruce
Davis.
with the City of Victor. Doesn't the state had some kind of a master plan they were working on about 15 years ago, so about high-speed rail up and down the Front Range from Pueblo all the way to Fort Collins? Is this part of that, or is this something different, or?
This is separate from that. And on the freight rail question,
And, Mr. Chair,
Yes, Commissioner Van de Weff.
with regard, frankly, to all of these proposed bills, I'm not sure I can really ascertain from the words that are here what the real value of it is, what the real impacts are. Is there a fiscal impact? Is that a positive impact, a negative impact? Is there, like say, just the community military cooperation? Certainly some of the sponsors there I know well, and I trust them, but we do a lot of cooperating between the community and our military installation. So in that regard, I kind of don't know what that bill is intending on doing that we aren't maybe already doing. I'm making this kind of as a general comment as far as really trying to get a true understanding about these impacts, which might be very, very positive, but it's hard to tell from the words.
one of the things that we did, we actually got a response back on that one saying, well, what is this different than what we currently do? And part of it is formalizing that our communities in the state of Colorado want to make sure that we are working to the best of our ability in cooperation. So rather than any direct things, and it doesn't currently have a fiscal note, many of these don't, that goal, even the pilot program for transportation for people with disabilities in El Paso and Teller County doesn't have a fiscal note. People know that this year there are financial constraints within the state, and they're looking at, hey, you can do this pilot program, but you've got to fund it yourself, and you've got to figure out how to make it pay going forward. So.
Councilmember Gabler?
Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did we finish?
Okay, I'll follow up.
And it's kind of a follow-up to Commissioner Vanderwerth's comment. I mean, I'm looking at these, and a couple of them, as you mentioned, especially Senate Bill 11, have direct impact on El Paso County, and yet you also said they have not been formally approved or supported by the TAC or the MAC? Go ahead.
I didn't send them to the TAC. That was, as I mentioned, my big error. The CAC did get the chance to review them all.
I mean, I guess I'm uncomfortable supporting or voting to support without our advisory committees having an opportunity to weigh in and provide some comments. You mentioned we had some sort of legislative committee last time, and maybe we do need to reestablish that if that can be of help.
I agree with that. I actually wrote that in a memo to Andy earlier this year, asking how the legislative tracker worked, and was very interesting to find out we really didn't have any say in it. And so I think we need to have some say in that, because there is one on here that I would think we would take no position on, because I know on HB 17-1018 Fountain, we were looking for an amendment to be added onto that, and it looks like it says here unamended. So that would be something we might be at odds with one of our partners, so I would think we would take no position
Right.
on that.
And I hear you saying that, I mean, a lot of these things come up quickly, and so there's not a lot of time.
Which is why I want a legislative committee of board
And
members.
that is what I think is probably missing here, because we don't have that opportunity. But
I even told Andy I volunteered to be on.
I don't want to fly solo here without on that. So.
Yeah. I agree.
Trustee Smith?
I'm not suggesting that we always play follow the leader on this by any means, but does Dr. Cog have a website that puts this stuff up and where they take a position, or does Diablo Cog or someone else where they research this and
We might not always agree with them, of course.
I completely agree with you, Jill.
No, he's just
But,
asking a general.
I'm just saying, is there information out there that we could glean from other COGs or TPRs on some of this legislation or other legislative sources?
Yeah, I'm to answer your question real fast, no, I don't know that they have any of that, but we have never researched other people's opinions on that. We do have, our own within, City of Colorado Springs, we have our own legislative tracker as well. PPACG has done this in years past. So we kind of have a number of those, and interestingly enough, they don't always agree. But, yeah, go ahead. Mr. Steen, I'll come back to Commissioner Vanderbilt.
Commissioner Waller is probably one of our best background experts here, having worked in the legislature, but it's an important to stay on this all the time, because amendments can be introduced, language can be introduced. It's helpful to know who else is supporting, who else has a view on it, but this has to be a very, very active process. And Mark?
Yeah, I think the best source of information is the General Assembly homepage. It has all of the amendments, it has the bill, it has the status of it, when it's going to hearing, what happened to it in committee. It has the entire status of the legislation there and any amendments that have been introduced. And it constantly updates the most current version of the bill. But, one of the best ways you can sort of, and I'm not saying this is what we need to use to determine if we support legislation or not, but one of the best ways you can sort of get the jumping off point for, hey, this is going to be something we're interested in or not interested in, is just who's sponsoring it, who's supporting it. So, you have Terry Carver, Dan Nordberg, Nancy Todd. Well, you have two legislators from our region here that are the sponsors of this bill. Probably something, our region cares about. Both Republicans. And then you have Senator Nancy Todd, Democrat from Aurora, the other person as the sponsor of the bill. So just from that, you can know, well, this has probably got pretty decent bipartisan support. Something that has, regardless of whether we support it or don't support it, something that's probably going to pass.
But see, you can look at that, and when it gets assigned
Sure.
to the Department of Horse Poop Removal, it's going nowhere.
Sure.
I don't know that.
Yeah, I get it. And it's hard. It's, the session's 120 days long, and they'll see probably 800 pieces of legislation will be introduced.
I think this is also underscoring the fact that this thing's happening so fast, and we have a 1-month process here.
Right.
And I apologize, for some reason, I don't recall the memo or why I didn't act on it. But I think it's a good point, is that we need that legislative committee to be able to turn and burn on something a little bit more quickly than the 1 month. And to that extent,
Yeah, I mean,
that past committee, was that board members or that staff? That was CAC, TAC? What was that consisted of?
According to the bylaws, it was board members and staff.
Board members and staff. So we probably need to, to bring that up there and have a much faster turn time and evaluation of these, because I know all of us are looking at this going, I have no idea, about how to do this and what it is. And so I'll take volunteers, and a previous legislator would be highly beneficial to be able to sort through that thing. And Mayor?
I think in the meantime, the fact that this has all gone to staff is important, and something that personally I feel comfortable moving forward with approving this, because staff did take some time to look at it, and they are the experts in these particular areas.
Who is
so,
staff?
I'm sorry?
Who
like
is staff,
Joe, Joe Urban.
Well, I'd like to know who is staff that reviews it, because I know what it was last year, but I'd like to know what it is this year.
Okay, so let me just finish real quick with my comment. So I'm in favor of moving forward. I'm not necessarily making a motion, because it sounds like people still need to have some dialogue, but I think that we need to just trust some staff sometimes on this sort of thing and do our own homework. The legislative committee would be great. I'd be totally open to being on that. But just, I think we need to honor staff's perspective.
Former Commissioner Clark. I think you were.
Member of the public now. Yes, I've always been a member of the public.
The recovering politician?
That's right. And also on staff as an alternate. Sally Clark. I wanted to point out, and I take to heart Commissioner Waller's comments. A lot of this is about relationship building, too, with our state legislators. I know how they work so hard to get these bills introduced and to get them actually through the legislature, which is not an easy process to begin with. And when you look at what's been recommended, I think that it's logical to support these. I don't think there's any risk to PPACG in taking a position. I think that there is a benefit involved in this. And if I look down, especially HB 1018, sponsored by Representative Liston, one of the things I think it's important about that one is that we supported it the last time around. In fact, I remember going up and testifying on behalf of it to allow counties that are not necessarily dependent on sales tax or may even have a sales tax to allow them to put an RTA on the ballot, because their main source of income is property taxes, not sales tax. So those are things I think that you need to think about. One of the suggestions that we used to track, and I know Jessica's new here, is where CCI, where Colorado counties and where Colorado Municipal League stood on these. In case cities and counties disagreed, that was a debate sometimes we had over these PPACG tables. But most of the time, they're supportive or monitoring, so it doesn't present any risk. So I just thought I'd point that out. I think the legislative committee is an excellent idea, but nothing happens and everything happens, just like that. And if you're not on top of this, then, and I do think it's a lot about relationship building with our legislative delegation here in the Pikes Peak region to help them with bills that are beneficial from all the things PPACG in our region does. Thanks, and I'm happy to take any questions, but I think I've made my statement. Thank you.
Okay, so we have on the agenda.
Just to make a correction, though, Sally, PPACG as a board did not support the bill you went and testified for. They took a non-support position since there was two competing entities in it, and you may have gone up and testified for the county.
No, I'm talking about the PPRTA bill.
That's what I meant. I'm sorry. The PPACG did not take we took a no. Not a no support position, a monitor position, neutral position on that bill.
I'm not sure about that, but I'd have to go back.
I thought it was a different bill. I know there was one last year that we absolutely.
This was several years ago.
I'm talking about the one last year. I'm talking about the one
No,
last year.
this was a long
I'm
time
talking about the
ago.
one last year because you
No.
went there and supported
Yeah,
that
last year,
one
last year we took no
Okay.
position.
All right.
Okay.
I
we-
still am going to
Counties
ask
do
on
not
the
always
PPRTA
agree.
bill, we take a neutral position or it goes to PPRTA.
Okay. So we have on the agenda an item. So we have a review and recommend action on this. So we have definite discussion on this. To go to the particular point, any amendments, changes, motion to approve, entertain a motion at this time to approve or to modify the suggestions.
I'd like to move to delay and have all of them go back to the various advisory committees.
Until when?
Well, or until an executive, or a legislative committee is established. I'm not comfortable voting to recommend any of these bills at this point. So, I mean, if you want to move forward, that's fine, but I'm sorry, I would be voting no.
Yeah,
Can we have a motion to delay?
well, and if you wouldn't mind, just briefly. And I understand that, and I appreciate that position, certainly. The reason I ask until when, because any lack of action that we take now, these things are going to be done. They'll be through the process, and chances are they're going to be over if we wait an entire month to come back and look at these things again, which is fine. The sun doesn't rise and set with PPACG's approval on legislation. I mean, they'll happen whether we want them to or not. But any inaction that we take today will limit our input.
Trustee Smith?
If this decision is delayed, could it be left in the hands of the PPACG Executive Board to be acted on, say, in an agreed-upon time by the Executive Board, 3 days, 5 days? I understand the necessity for being quick, because if you don't act on this quickly, you'll lose out. And as a board member, I trust the executive board, and I would hope I would have company in that. And I'm just wondering aloud here.
I actually really like that idea. And if we don't have a legislative committee established and allowing the executive committee to kind of move forward on any recommendations from staff.
I think I've seen 2 volunteers for the Legislative Review Committee already, and I will accept those and appoint them. Mayor and Commissioner.
I'll join too.
Well, I think we need to keep, if we can keep it to 2, okay, let's go ahead and do that, but you've got to be careful on the meeting, so.
We can comment by email, we just can't convene.
No, you
I hadn't
can't.
thought about the.
Yeah,
the
okay, so
open
you
records
need to do that, but
Yep. Keep it at that too, then.
let's keep it at 2. We'll appoint you as an alternate. And there,
Wait,
there you go.
I volunteered like 3 months ago.
And I'm sorry.
Just ended up not being on it.
I think we have 4 people here, so let's sort it out, and we'll sort out some way to do that.
And perhaps the first task for those 2 primary members is to figure out a
Figure out how to
process
do that.
for, how
And how to make
whether
that-
it's a standing weekly meeting or.
Yeah, and whether that comes back then to, with that recommendation, and go to the executive committee for approval and execute support.
But we had a motion, I thought we had a motion
We
on
do-
the
we
floor
do.
for what to do with
Yeah, we
this.
do.
Okay.
So we have at this point a motion and second it to defer. I would argue that we not do that, but I think we can support some of these. But
I'll rescind my motion.
rescind a motion. Okay, so now we need a new motion.
And can I just one more brief comment? I would say the criticality of our weighing in is less important on bills we support and much more important on the ones that we don't. And so that's the lens we can look at this through. So I suppose delaying action on the ones that are up there today on support positions, probably not a huge deal delaying that. But the critical, although, if Councilwoman Thompson has an issue with one of them, yeah, maybe she wants to weigh in and, not support a piece of legislation. But generally speaking, it's not so much about the ones we support, it's about the ones we want to oppose.
And then,
Yeah,
Mr. Chair.
Yeah, there are three positions: support, no, one way or the other, monitor, and oppose. And for example, last year we did stay out of one fight.
A couple of comments. I think there's some validity in what Commissioner Waller is saying with that, and so I have an interest in understanding are any of these in one way or another particularly egregious? I mean, cutting transportation funding by large numbers, or doubling transportation funding so they might be exceptionally helpful, or anything like that. It doesn't sound like we have that. And then, if I'm also interested in knowing if there are any fiscal notes, right, attached to them, because then there's a fiscal impact of one manner or another. And with regard to, say, the first three that are on here, I'm not really 100% sure what HB 17-1054 does with regard to military community cooperation, but I'm all in support of that. And if there's no fiscal note, I can trust the sponsors, okay? With regard to HB 17-1018, it doesn't look like that's much any more than just simply extending the authorization of an already existing law and allowing it to continue to be available for the state to use if so desired. And number three, with regard to HB 17-1031, I believe there's no fiscal note attached to this. I would like to confirm on these first three at least whether there is or isn't a fiscal note. On the third one, I have actually spoken with Representative Carver about this, and I think part of the intention of this proposed legislation is to try to force the transportation, the CDOT and the Transportation Commission districts to actually talk to the different regions and improve openness, transparency, and communication. And as long as there's no fiscal note associated with that, and the fact that I trust at least one of, some of the folks there I don't know, but I know one, and I trust that person. No fiscal note, trust that legislator, and I think it's to try and force openness and transparency. Those first three, I might be willing to entertain a motion, to support, because I think I might know enough about them. But I do want to know, before we go there, are there any fiscal notes assigned to those three?
Disadvantage of sitting on that side of the building is that you can't see what I'm pulling up.
Excellent.
So here are the fiscal notes for Senate Bill 11. It has the potential to increase.
So no fiscal note, so no impact.
No fiscal note on, okay. So 11, there's no impact.
Correct.
No fiscal impact.
I've got a question over here.
Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, no, to follow up on the point, Excel spreadsheet, you put a column that says fiscal impact, yes, no, and highlight it if it's major. Again, so we can cue into this thing instead of, again, what we're trying to do is streamline a process so that we're more comfortable that our support is asked for, because this is a corporate body, and the corporate body is either saying yay or nay.
Right.
And then taking specific action. And then maybe if we put two columns, fiscal note, yes, no, action required by the board or something like that, to, again, streamline this information and communication through a legislative group. It appears innocuous, but as mentioned, the devil's always in the details, and if we don't list them and we can, it's just a simple column.
Yes.
And to muddy those waters for you just a little bit, no fiscal impact means no state fiscal impact. It doesn't mean no local community fiscal impact. Right. So you gotta, that's something you gotta kind of tune into and try to be aware of as well.
Unfunded mandates, I think is the term.
Yep, that's
Mayor?
right.
I'd like to make a motion.
Yes.
That we move forward with the recommended bills in support.
He understands that kind of crap.
All five? Yes. A motion to recommend support for all five. Do I hear a second?
Hey, I'm sorry, I bumped my iPad. I'm on the wrong page.
Oh.
Technology.
There are now 6 bills, just.
Okay.
6 bills?
To be
I'm sorry.
difficult.
Has that been seconded or not? Are we up for
We're waiting for a second.
Do you want to pull one of them off?
I might,
There's one that, but there's only one that we've actually heard.
That's okay.
opposition
Been there, done
or
that.
Issues with.
okay, you said there were 6?
Wait, where's the sixth one?
Where's the 6th one?
So the sixth one, as I mentioned when I first started speaking, it
Yeah.
came out after I had already mailed things, the Office of Public Guardianship Pilot Program,
Oh, that's right.
Senate Bill, or, I'm sorry, I'm never going to get this right, House Bill 1087.
1087, guardianship. I almost forgot that. Okay. So, did you mean to
Yes, I meant all
recommend all
6 of them.
6?
Yep.
Okay. We have a motion to support all 6. Do I see a second? Second, I have a motion and a second. Any final discussions?
I would like to pull off HB 17-1018 for some more review and take the neutral or monitor position at this point. It might be more appropriate for PPRTA to look at that.
Maybe one, support as introduced, because amendments can come a long way, but you might change your position.
Well, I think that's her problem. She can't support as introduced. She wants to support with amendments.
Yes, but my motion,
So
we need to follow through with this current motion, correct? And if you're not in favor of it, don't vote for it.
And now we're
And then
discussing
we
it.
can change it.
And now we're discussing it.
I'm not amending my motion.
I understand that. And I
Okay.
said, so now we're discussing it, and that's just my decision.
But you can amend the motion.
Well, she does not want to amend it.
But you can
You can vote
amend
no
a
on
motion, and then we have to act on the amendment
On the
before
amendment,
we
yeah, you can-
act
you
on
can-
the original motion.
You can
Okay.
make a motion to amend the motion on the
I
table.
would make a motion to amend the motion to support 5 of them, taking off HB 17-1018.
Okay, I have a motion to amend. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second to amend the original motion. Any other discussion at this point?
Just a
Yes.
quick question. Sharon, can you explain your concerns with it as it's written?
If I'm understanding it correctly from the person that's explained it to me, and that was actually who was just calling me, so possibly there might have been an instantaneous change to the support or non-support, but I had to keep her off. The determination was that they were wanting statewide, not just this area, that if an area within an RTA became incorporated by a city, they would have the option to opt out of that, and it's a statewide thing, much as the similar one that was up last year, but it would make it so if you wanted to incorporate some area into Green Mountain Falls that was fall under an RTA, so they wouldn't end up being double taxed.
I'm going to chime in on that. That is actually a different bill. This bill is just about allowing RTAs to have the option of doing.
I understand. I'm on the correct bill. It's a mill levy. I understand that.
Okay. But it has nothing to do with double taxation or incorporation. This one just talks about.
I understand that, yeah.
Okay.
Does that make sense? I'm probably not explaining it very well, but
Well, you've explained it, and that's why we took no position last year, but I think it's a
Right.
different bill.
It's a different bill. My concern is for us not to take a position waiting for that amendment to be considered is not in our best interest in a couple fold. One, as PPACG, the RTA is an important institution that we've benefited from to promote transportation here in our region. And this is a statewide ability that we really don't have any benefit from because we do not collect mill levy through our RTA, but others do. And so in support of the institutions of RTAs, I think it's important for us as a region to support others in that. And I think to muddy the waters with an amendment that potentially we're waiting for that could corrupt this bill and the clean nature of this bill that has been approved in the past could be problematic for us and get bogged down in another issue that's going to corrupt this very clean issue.
but
Trustee Smith?
but RTA is not part of PPACG.
I know, that's a separate,
Right.
But-
So that's why I'm saying PPACG should not take a position on this, but maybe RTA.
yeah. Trustee Smith?
Call for the question.
One last round of questions, comments? The vote is on a motion to amend the original motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
No.
That sounded like a no to me.
Vision of the House, which means count the hands.
There you go.
Let's go ahead, all in favor of the motion to amend, put your hands up. All opposed? I think the nays have it.
No.
Vote on the original motion to recommend support of all 6. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Okay. I think the ayes have it. And we'll look for the legislative committee to turn and burn. And,
Thank you all very much. I'll be reaching out to everybody about the legislative committee via the executive committee.
Okay. And that was the action items. Everybody comfortable continuing on, or shall we take a short break? Go for it. CDOT monthly update.
Good morning. I'm Mark Andrew with CDOT. I'll be brief, and we're going to give you an update on the Cimarron project. Just a quick update on construction projects. The Manitou Springs overlay, we'll finish that this spring. We've got a couple months of paving. We'll be out of there by Labor Day. Let's thank you, Memorial Day. That would be bad. We not quite Valentine. Next year?
Yeah, which year?
And then the guardrail project on I-25 is moving along. We're completing that gap section from Fountain South, about 10 miles of guardrail where needed, and then we're going to follow up with another guardrail project next year to complete the median guardrail from 119 to Pueblo. So our goal is to get all the median guardrail in place in the next 1.5 to 2 years. So the current project is moving along fairly well. A couple new projects we advertised. I mentioned earlier, we're doing a paving project on 24 from Constitution to Garrett and improving the intersection at Garrett in 24 with Texas T, Florida T, and doing some safety improvements with slope flattening as well. We advertised our bridge preventative maintenance project, and we're going out with construction this spring to do more sealing of concrete decks to preserve life on those bridges. A couple surface treatment projects I mentioned earlier, State Highway 67 West Creek to Victor, and then the US 50 Highway 9 surface treatment project in Fremont County. Those 2 projects will be advertised this month. So additional projects that we've got in the fall, we're going to do some more drainage repair on the Douglas Creek drainage, which is in connection with the Chestnut bridge replacement. Downstream of that, we have a culvert repair that we need to make this fall. And then also Monument Branch up in the Monument area. We've got some scour problems up there we're going to fix, and some drainage repair. Ongoing asset management projects that we're looking at, we're going to repair walls where needed. We're going to repair, or we're going to provide bridge scour protection where needed. So those projects are happening behind the scenes. And then we're also working on several safety projects, including passing lanes on 24 East near Peyton and State Highway 94 and Peyton intersection. We've had some safety issues out there, so we're going to add some turn lanes at Peyton and 90. I said 24, I meant 94 Peyton. Couple studies that we're working on. Everybody knows about the I-25 PEL. We had a couple successful public meetings in the last month and well attended. We got some good comments. We've got some direction in terms of schedule, which I think is very helpful to the team up in Region 1, and our support with them is to complete a project ready for construction in 2019 with the completion in 2022. So that's good. I think we got the schedule issue out of the way. Now it's just really up to the money. However, it's going to be a challenge for that staff because they're They're doing an environmental document, and then the GAP project, they're going to do an environmental assessment about the same time and then do the design at the same time. So pretty challenging, but I think we're up to the task on that. The US 24 East Planning Environmental Linkage Study continues. We're getting close to putting out alternatives for review. The alternatives will include widening and safety improvements on that corridor, so that's coming. We want to wrap that up in the next 6 months and get something on the shelf so we can start talking about how to fund projects in the future on 24. And then just a brief note, I know there was a request for project priorities, and so we're anxious to see that list come out. One of the things we've had conversations with the city. We think we're on the same page with some of the shelf projects that we're working on. Two in particular at 21 in research. We're moving forward and getting that shelf ready. As I spoke earlier about the need to widen I-25 from Academy to Circle, that one we're going to put out a request for a proposal this spring for a consultant to start designing that. So those two shelf projects are moving forward. There are others that will come out of that request. Once we get that priority list, we'll act on those projects.
Mark, the state legislature, you know, is working as a top priority statewide transportation funding. And a key component of that is prioritization of projects, which you've already mentioned. What's the CDOT role in defining what those projects are, and what's our role in contributing to that list, that definition of the list?
I think we give you information to help you make that decision. So, I mean, I would say we have, and Karen can chime in here too, I think we have a say, but we also give you the opportunity to say, hey, we think that this should be done first, and then this, and then this. So that's how we've done it in the past.
A little confusing because I don't know who the legislature is listening to, so.
I was going to say, I don't think CDOT plays a huge role in that. I think but we are using our capital development list, that 10-year capital development list, that unfunded one. I think that would be our official, here's the projects we've heard are a priority. So I don't know how that legislation is going to come out, but I think any list we have, that would be the list.
That's the 3.5 billion tier one.
Yeah, and I think it's 2.5 billion, isn't it? 2.5 billion, not 3.5, but
Statewide. Yeah.
Statewide.
Yeah. It's like 3.6 or something. You might be right. You know better than I.
I don't know. You might know more from Stack, but last I heard it was 2.5 billion, but maybe it's gone up. Or maybe the legislation bill is 3.5, but our list is 2.5, I thought. Yeah, and I just want to look at that list, too, to make sure it allows us enough flexibility. And from my memory on that, 21 in research for $25 million, and the widening of Circle to South Academy is on there. And we had the I-25, Monument in Castle Rock on there. But, again, the amounts, too, were lower. So from this area, I know those were some of the major projects on there. But I wanted to provide enough flexibility that maybe just I-25 through Colorado Springs or through Fountain or something like that, So if other projects or priorities or things come up, we have that flexibility.
I just want to make sure we're speaking one voice.
Yeah, it's just hard because CDOT coordinates with the legislator, but we're not officially saying, here's the list, So it's really, I don't know the process in terms of how you guys have that voice in it, for sure.
Yeah, and I think you've seen the 10-year list, but a lot of those projects are, like Karen said, they're corridors, so there's not specific projects that have been identified in those corridors. For example, 24 West, there was funding identified, but there was no project-specific description in there. So I think we need to come back and say, we're working on that. Here's some options that you could do on 24 between 8th Street and Woodland Park with that money. And
I don't know if they're going to come back to us, Mark. So that's what we need to work on. Because
that's
again,
what-
it's not our bill. It's someone else's. So that's the
One of the points of
problem.
discussion is how much flexibility is given to the local RTDs and to the MPOs on discretionary spending once funding's approved. What specific
Right.
projects or whether it's corridors is
Well,
is a
and-
question in discussion at the legislature.
Yeah, so I would recommend that PPACG contact any legislators that may bring that bill forward to ask them what's the process to make sure that you get your voice heard. Right now, I mean, again, they're trying to figure out 1/3 transit, 1/3 local money, and 1/3 state.
Wow.
Are things are figures that I've heard, but I just don't know. Again,
64
what it's
Metro
going to
Mayors
be.
is proposing that formula, which
Right.
CCIs or CCI, not PPACG, just formula
Right.
proposed.
And that's what I'm just saying. CDOT's not officially the carriers of that legislation.
Trustee Smith?
Karen, I hear different people with different ideas saying different things. Are you comfortable suggesting when the gap might be finished? Because I hear different dates thrown out. You know, I know it's got to be, you know, the studies have all got to be done, and you know, we're a long way from there. And I'm just, is this something that you can?
Well, Mark mentioned it. So we officially say if we can find construction funding by the end of this year for the project, we can get it completed in construction by early 2022.
Which is in the current tip.
Oh.
Okay.
That's amazing.
The funding being identified, I think, is the...
Right.
And I think we're moving forward with
That
the
little
environmental study
two-letter
even
word.
without it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And right now, like you said, in the capital development list, we have, I think, 300 million identified between Dr. Cog and PPACG, kind of just total amount. But it may be up to 500 million. So there's just a lot of unknowns at this point. But that's what we've committed to in terms of getting the project designed and advertised, and we would have a 2-year construction timeframe.
And then the County of Aurora put some in for the study or something, or no?
No. There was some money from C470, which is in Douglas County, that wasn't needed. So CDOT reallocated it to. It was discretionary to CDOT funds. It was it was $15 million that went towards the design and the study.
Commissioner Scott?
Back to Karen's point about conversations around allocation of whatever funding is provided, and, you know, this third formula has been discussed, and Dr. Cog has some very strong opinions about that, which might be somewhat different from what this body would conclude. But going back to Commissioner Wells' point, is in touching on the whole legislative engagement activity, that's going to be a fast and furious, hot conversation. And it's important that there be, I believe, sort of a quick response capability within PPACG to respond to whatever's on the table on the moment. And that isn't a monthly or even a weekly response capability. It will have to be quick, because who knows what will actually come out. But there are going to be some conversations going on up there that are going to probably make daily changes in the way this happens. So I think your ability to react to legislative proposals is going to be very important.
Mayor?
So moving off of that topic, so Garden the God's Place looks amazing. We're very, very, very pleased with that, and your workers were just fantastic. And then I wondered if you have an update on, crossing my fingers, traffic signal at Manitou Avenue in El Paso?
Not since we last spoke last time, but I know, again, that it does meet warrants, and I've asked the traffic engineers to look for funding for capital signal replacement or capital signal costs. And if we can't use that funding, maybe there's another funding, maybe we have to use our regional priority program for that. But the good thing is, once we find the funding, we can move forward with the design and construction on that. So So it does meet warrants.
Okay, and you just let me know how I can help with that process at all. And there have been a couple of accidents, pedestrian and vehicle accidents there, so if that's,
It may
helpful
qualify
with
for
the safe,
safety.
yeah. Mhm.
It could be. So let me, why don't I give you an update? We'll send you an email and give the board an update as well. All right? Dave's going to give a quick update on Cimarron.
Thanks, Mark. Dave Wilder, resident engineer, work with Mark and Karen. I want to start with the usual, so to speak, and it remains true. We are on budget and on schedule to complete the improvements for the I-25 Cimarron interchange by December of this year. Welcome to 2017. We lost January, and here we are in February. And I want to talk to you about some ongoing work and some challenges that we've experienced lately. One of the challenges we dealt with back, particularly with the Martin Luther King weekend, was some striping challenges. Just for notification purposes, we've done some traffic switches, and a Thursday before the MLK weekend, we had striped the I-25 work and the new configurations with some traffic switches on Thursday. They held up fine Friday. With the snow that came over the weekend, and as we arrived to work on Monday, the stripes were not evident. And we responded quickly with some Monday evening striping, and that didn't stick as well as we would have liked. And it also, we had some equipment breakdowns. So we made the decision that Tuesday afternoon we needed to do some additional striping, and that segued on into Wednesday afternoon with some additional striping. We prefer not to be doing that type of traffic impact during the day, but safety certainly trumped that need, and we will remain responsive and trying to react as quickly as we can with that striping. But again, that daytime striping is not how we like to do it, but that was necessary, and that was something we had to do, and would do that again if a similar circumstance, which is not what we're hoping for. But should that need arise, we would make those calls and move out as quickly as we could in that regard. We do have some striping coming up tomorrow night. That's to touch up some and refresh and complete the work that we tried to do Monday evening. So just general rule of thumb, they monitor the striping, what it looks like, and about every other week we plan on refreshing the stripes. This is temporary pavement marking paint, so it's not quite as adhesive as it doesn't stick as well as the permanent striping that's a different material. But that's one of the challenges with winter construction and heavy traffic ways. So we will keep on it, and that was a good response by the team, but we had some challenges we had to deal with in that regard. Ongoing ramp work, I hope you're noticing a little bit of some tweaks that we are on the new configuration for the southbound exit ramp. We have some recent additional storage along the northbound exit ramp, which we're hoping that will keep some of the backups off the main line. Keep in mind from where we started, this northbound exit ramp has been a problem child since before we started the project, and it's recently been improved and will continue to improve when we get the triple left exit and we have a dedicated right turn lane to downtown Colorado Springs. And we complete the work to the west on US 24 that opens up the travel along the Highway 24 corridor to get people out of the interchange area. So continued improvement in that regard. The northbound entrance ramp to I-25 also continues with some work there. We are on a temporary bridge that, I say temporary bridge, it's temporary with some culverts. We've got some good timing with this time of year with the flows that are a lower rate in the winter. So we are going to be out of that creek with that temporary northbound entrance ramp before April 1st, and we'll be on to the new bridge in April. And that will be a new bridge that spans over the 100-year Fountain Creek flood work. That kind of segues into some other work you see ongoing right now. There's a lot of creek work on Fountain Creek between the confluence and some recent work that the City of Colorado Springs has done just north of the confluence along the east bank of Monument Creek. So what we've keep in mind, our fourth goal of the I-25 Cimarron Interchange project was to achieve an aesthetically pleasing design, and part of that aesthetic treatment was to begin to treat the creeks like an amenity, not like they're an afterthought. And Fountain Creek in this area had very much been an afterthought. overgrown and trashed out. What we're seeing right now is the expansion of that creek to convey the 100-year storm. You're also starting to see some of the creek and trail enhancements that are being implemented there. The Midland Trail will be a lot better connection than what we had previously, where it went underneath the highway with a very narrow tunnel, if you will. It was a bridge, but a very constrained tunnel with the Midland Trail. Also some creek enhancements, again, to convey more floodwater, but also reestablishing the riparian or natural habitat. Some low-flow channel sinuosity. I get to tell my kids I use the word sinuosity, and I actually know what it means. It means we're curving the creek so it doesn't look just like a straight shot. Like us engineers do like straight lines, but we were talking into a more natural curved alignment along the creek that will carry the normal flows, if you will. We did encounter some hazardous materials in a landfill where the express in had been, if you recall that. That's been a challenge that we've had to reach out to the Army Corps of Engineers, other permitting agencies, and make sure that we were accommodating and handling that situation correctly, and I'm here to say that we are. It's run into some extra expenses. As with the northwest side of the interchange, when you encounter those hazardous materials, it's kind of, you play by the rules and you move on with the work and you document that you did play by the rules. That's what we're doing here within our change management budget, and it's moving forward, and we're going to have a lot better looking creek between I-25 confluence and the 8th Street Bridge, and it will hold up with a 100-year flood. Phase 3, we are in the middle of Phase 2, so a lot of the work with the ramps we described is in the second phase of the project. The third phase will start latter part of June, and that will include the quadrant intersection, which should help relieve some of that congestion we have at 24 and 8th Street. It will continue on with the landscaping, and kind of a neat switch that we're looking forward to is we're going to be putting traffic on the I-25 northbound pavement in that third phase. So that concrete work you've seen now here this summer, we should be shifting traffic over to that. I would answer any questions if we have any.
Any questions? I can't get a ballpoint pen to work when it's cold. I don't know how you paint lines when it's that cold.
We had to paint them again.
Okay, any other questions, comments? Thank you. Thank you, appreciate it. Military installations report. We have only a few of you today.
Just real quick, wanted to thank the board for your approval endorsement for the lift station upgrade. That, in case you didn't know building numbers, that's in a battalion area in our special operations group. So those soldiers are going to be feeling great, knowing it's more reliable when we upgrade that station. So this next step will go to the Colorado Department of Health and Environment to actually get permitted for the upgrade. But thank you again. That's all I have.
Thanks.
Not much from the Air Force Academy, but thanks for having us again. One note that we want to bring up is the state of USAFA, the State of the Air Force Academy, will be on the 22nd of March. So the PPACG expect invites here closer to the end of February. We should be able to get those out, and you'll get your invites out. But pending your questions, that's all I have.
Okay.
Good morning. I'm Johnny Sapp, Peterson Air Force Base. A few items to brief for us this morning. No significant updates in terms of the PFOA issue previously. Additionally, I mentioned last month we are planning some significant anniversary events at Peterson. We'll do the 70th anniversary of the 21st Space Wing. We're planning an event in the May timeframe, trying to finalize plans for that, and we'll get the notice out on that. We're trying to get General Raymond lined up to post that. Going to be participating in a joint exercise with the Colorado Springs Airport this spring, as well as supporting the Colorado Springs Air Show in September. So we're looking forward to those partnering opportunities. Additionally, I'll be hosting the Air Force Base Command Inspector General team here the 6th through the 13th of March, coming out for our unit effectiveness inspection, and looking forward to showing our stuff. Last item, change of command season is rapidly approaching the summer, so we'll be changing out Colonel Chefs will be departing in the summer time frame, as questions is all I have.
Any questions? Thank you, sir. Executive Director's report.
Just two or three things. Staff attended the I-25 PEL meeting that was held January 24 at Library 21C. Staff has also attended several MPO meetings, one in Pueblo, one in Denver. Also, in the JLUIS department, PPACG received a $60,000 DOLA grant in support of that program. Board Chair Pico signed it, and it's been returned to DOLA, so that should be moving along quickly. Also, from the Pikes Peak RTA board, that board did support House Bill 171018 and authorized me with my PPRTA hat on, not my PPACG hat on, to go testify in support of that in late January, and that was before the House Transportation and Energy Committee. And again, that's one of the co-authors is Representative Larry Liston, and it did pass that Transportation and Energy Committee on a 10-3 vote on that day. And since then, it has moved through and been approved by the entire House unamended, and is on to the Senate. That's all I have.
Okay. Trustee Smith?
On that sunset portion of that,
Yes.
now, is that the entire bill or just the capital projects portion of that? Because isn't a portion of that RTA permanent? What portion of that RTA statute are we talking about, just so I'm clear?
That House Bill 1018 is simply extending the sunset provision of the 2009 bill that became law. Let me back up. The 2009 law that was also introduced by Representative Larry Liston allowed any RTA in the state to go to their voters and ask for up to 5 mills of a property tax. But that 2009 statute, amendment to the RTA statute, had a 10-year sunset that sunsets 2 years from now, January 1st of 2019. This new House Bill 1018 simply adds 10 years to the sunset of the 2009 statute.
It has nothing to do with our RTA at all?
Correct.
Thank you.
The RTA board's position in 2009, and again last month, was that the RTA board has zero interest in a property tax option to go to the voters and ask for that. But in support of other RTAs in the state, they authorized me in 2009 and again last month to go speak in favor of the option for other RTAs to have that option to go to the voters for property tax.
Old man disease. At one time I knew this and forgot it, but thank you.
Commissioner Steen?
Yeah, Rick, I noticed that one of the items on the MPO monthly agenda was MPO certification. I know that is scheduled to occur, I think, 5 federal highways of this MPO later this month, and I'm wondering if you can give an assessment of what that applies, where we went this.
Is Ken Prather in the room?
Yes, he is.
Ken Prather is the acting director of the transportation program.
Our MPO certification occurs every 4 years, and we're due. It will start in a few months. We have a meeting with FHWA, FTA, and CDOT next week. It's kind of just an introductory of what the process is going to be, and that's just at the staff level. We don't have the official start date, but what it starts with is they send us a questionnaire, about 200 questions, and it's all essay answers, and so it's an IG inspection for the military. You know, they go through every program by section and chapter, and are we following the federal programs? And then they will come down and have a physical meeting with us. After that questionnaire is completed, they've had a chance to review it, and then they will write up an official written report, and that will be presented to the board.
I have great confidence in our interim transportation director, but my question to the board is, what help do you think you need? You think you have the resources to get through the inspection, and how much assistance do we need to provide in that process?
I think we're good.
Okay.
We'll need minimal, there will probably be some questions that we might have to come to the board and answer, but that would be not because of staffing or anything like that. That's just, you've got the answers. Because Transit's involved, CDOT's involved, we're involved. It's the regional planning process, so there's a number of stakeholders in it.
In any event, there's any deficiency at whatever level found, there's a chance to remedy, I assume, once we get full-time, no, but once you get an interim director back on, or full-time director back on board and so on, I assume?
Mhm.
Right? Yeah.
Any other questions?
Any questions? Okay. Moving to the Transportation Advisory Committee, Brian Vitulli. There we go.
Good morning. Brian Vitulli with the City of Colorado Springs Mountain Metro Transit and the chair of the Transportation Advisory Committee with a very brief report from our January meeting. The committee approved items 7 and 8 in this report, so that's the TIP Amendment 6 and the UPWP Amendment 2. We also heard the status of the long-range transportation plan goals, and the committee agreed with the new approach to ask for a little bit more input from the community on some more aspirational types of goals, and rather than putting the 13 goals that have been through several planning cycles up front, kind of put those as background material and then ask the public exactly what they're looking for. And we also reiterated our keen interest in seeing less goals go into the new plan. 13 goals equates to 13 categories that member governments have to write our projects to, which also equates to PPACG staff doing a lot of extra work on evaluating and scoring the projects. And CDOT's current long-range transportation goal has, or plan has, about 4 or 5 overarching goals. So we think there's a lot of consistency in trying to reduce the number of goals for our regional plan. We also addressed the not one penny extra policy. If you remember back in December, you returned the note policy back to the committees to look into. TAC is forming a task force to look at this. We'll have our first meeting next Thursday before our regularly scheduled TAC meeting. There will be smaller representation on this task force, but we're going to dive into this and, first off, get a clear understanding of what the current note policy says, some alternatives that we can look at, and then what that means for all of us going forward. And, the note policy was created, I believe, back in 2006 because of an issue, and, that issue doesn't really occur anymore, and there's a little bit of, it's been handled on a case-by-case basis just fine. The board has that waiver option available, and that's the way it's been handled in the past, but we're looking to get into this, and we'll have a CDOT representative from their Office of Financial Management and Budget to help guide us through what the TAC thought early on. There was a cash management alternative that looked to be something that could take the place of this. But before we go through with that, we need to find out if it's a valid option, and we need some expertise from CDOT. So thank you, CDOT, for providing that. And we're really hoping to make this a quick process. I'm setting a goal of having the TAC make a recommendation by April. So that means We'll have February, March, and April task force meetings, and then the board should hopefully see this in May. And we are also starting development of a new priority transportation project list. Also back in December, you all passed a resolution making the I-25 North widening project the highest priority, but it seems to be a reoccurring list that needs to be reaffirmed or relooked at, and all of the member governments on the tax submitted up to 10 transportation priority projects to PPACG staff on Monday, and we'll be looking at that discussion item next Thursday to start that process over again. That's all I have. Are there any questions?
One question. You said that is there going to be a joint task force between the CAC and the TAC?
That's a good question. We discussed that at our last TAC meeting, and while we are very interested in having it to be a joint process, we were a little concerned with trying to spend extra time bringing the CAC up to speed with a lot of what we already know. So what we're looking to do is to invite, there are a couple members on the CAC who are interested in sitting in with our process. So I think that's the way we're going to handle it. And I talked with Mr. Moore, the chair of the CAC, and we think that that's a good approach because it does need to be a TAC recommendation, and we will be briefing the CAC on our progress as we go on, but it will be a TAC recommendation that is then seen by the CAC, and but we think that coordination will be positive to move forward with some type of alternative to the note policy.
Okay, Commissioner Dean?
I like the idea of periodic project review, but questions to CDOT though is to what if you recommend then changing or those priorities, what's the process of CDOT to change the development list, the 10-year Tier 1 development list? How is that done?
Really to the stack and, through us if it needs to be adjusted. But like you said, it may be timing a bit like Rocky mentioned, and that if it goes to legislation, it may be too late at that point to change anything. We could change it on our list, but I don't know what the legislation list.
Jeff Sidmar hasn't talked about a process for updating this. I mean, it's been a long, probably 2 years in developing that list, but we haven't talked about a process to amend it.
Right.
Whatever,
There's no formal process to amend it. It's just a wish list. So, however, if you have a wish to change it, then we could probably adjust it. We do have parameters where we're trying to keep it fiscally constrained within regions. So that's the challenge. Is there's no designated.
Portion, not the full.
Right. Not the Tier 2. The Tier 2 is just the full wish list, yeah. But that would be good.
Yeah, because now it might mean something. The legislature's looking for specific projects for funding, either projects or corridors, and it's really important that we have updated lists to present to the decision makers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I will say, kind of the starting point of this priority list is obviously our current priority list, but it's also the list that I think we've all seen over the last couple of months that CDOT put out. With those high priority projects, there will be a lot of consistency between what's on that list and I believe what comes out of this.
Trustee Smith?
Currently, we have 250 people a day moving into Colorado Springs. Does PPACG possess any software that can shake that down to the number of people that need transportation, where they're moving into, and help design routes and things like this?
I have no
Small
idea.
area forecast is the tool.
Yeah, but I don't think it's that. Okay, here we come.
Yep. Ken just gave me a thumbs up, so at least I'm on the same.
Your answer was right. The small area forecast is our attempt to forecast
Yes, the small area forecast is our attempt to forecast population and employment growth over the next 20, 25 years. And we do make an attempt to, our purpose is to identify the transportation needs because of that. So it's how much is coming into the region, and then where in the region are the jobs and the people going to go, and where do they travel from and to.
And that would thereby help you forecast your costs and those types of things as well?
Yes.
And revenue streams also?
We, as part of our next long-range transportation plan, yes, we will be looking at what are reasonable revenue streams in the future. What projects do we think we need based on our projected growth? What they're going to cost? Do we have enough money for what we need? No. So then, what's our priority? What do we build first?
Yeah, just to respond, I mean, it's not prescriptive. We don't tell people where to buy a house.
That's
Right.
good. That's
No,
America. We don't
but
do that.
folks like the councils can do land use policy changes and development plans and so on. Yes.
Encourage.
Yeah, so that's why this small area forecast has different options. You can look at infill versus other, yeah. It's complicated.
Councilwoman Thompson?
Brian, I was just curious, you said that you had these 13 criteria that we worked through that are really complicated, and CDOT only has like 4. We just authorized the survey, the 2050 long-range transportation, or is that based on the 13 goals?
Well, it's background material in the survey. When residents take the survey, Jessica can speak to this better, but when residents take the survey, they'll be asked open-ended questions. What do you think the priorities are for the region? But I believe our existing 13 goals that are in our current 2040 regional transportation plan will be there for backup, so they can see what was done in the past. And
Right. So I guess my question is, if we're going to reduce it down, which I make it more manageable, which I think is a great idea, is that information that we just authorized the survey for going to be able to translate for that? Or are you going to say, well, we changed the goals, or are we going to be able to just say this one fits here and this one fits there, so we don't have to redo the survey?
well, I believe once all of the input comes back from the survey and from the community, then it will be the committees and the boards work toward what, looking at what we heard from the survey. How do we move forward, and how do we address the needs of the community, but also to streamline our process? And they're being around through several cycles of the long-range plan. There are a lot of goals that can be combined into others. So I think we can address the need to be in compliance with the federal regs and the state regs, but still streamline the process to make it a little bit better and a little bit less confusing and less work for everybody, but still reach where we're going.
I don't want to spend a bunch of money and time on a
Right.
survey, and then you come back a year later and say, well, we changed it, and now it doesn't work. I want to be able to make sure we can use it and plug the information into where we're going.
Yeah, and the survey and the community input is the
Right.
first step to find out what's needed.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, thank you.
Community Advisory Committee, Mr. Jim Moore.
Jim Moore, Chair of the Community Advisory Committee and at-large member. First of all, thank you for approving Aubrey Day as a new member, citizen at large, and wanted to note that in our meeting, we also said thank you to Mr. Al Creeley for 2 terms. He just was very persistent, kept staying on. Let's see, you've got the report on the unopposed slate of officers who were adopted. A couple of things that I would add with some emphasis. We did spend a considerable amount of time talking about the proposal for the survey and for the discussion about the long-range goals. Jessica sent out the survey for some of us to take a look at and kind of go through, and I was one of those that did. And just to clarify a little bit about where the 13 goals stand in that survey, and I don't want to tread on your process, Jessica, but the 13 goals are actually presented in their current verbal form with an opportunity for respondents to indicate whether they feel we should keep them, give them strong support, or get rid of them. So it's kind of an opportunity for them to vote on the various forms of those. We did support that, and I think it's wise that we do go ahead and proceed as the first step in the public outreach, which is an area that we on the Community Advisory Committee are particularly charged to provide advice and counsel on. On the matter of the NOPE task force that Brian was talking about, we do already have a couple of people who will be sitting in on that and participating. And I would point out that with some new officers, and we're going to be doing a few new things with the CAC, one of those things is to make sure that we have cross-feed with the TAC, simply because the name of our committee is the Community Advisory Committee, and not the technical or transportation or really scientific or wastewater or whatever else. So we're supposed to be bringing a unique perspective to the advisory role that we perform for you. Hopefully that is working out. I was pleased to hear Mr. Galuski comment on some of the things that came out of our meeting about the wastewater lift station. And I think that's really about it. I'd be more than happy to answer any questions that you all have.
Any questions? Thank you, sir. Regional Advisory Council? David? No. Doesn't look like Dave.
Hi, I'm Joe Ruth, past chairperson. Dave was not able to be with us this morning, so I'm filling in for him today. Thank you. I won't go over all of our minutes, but there are a couple of things I'd like to highlight for you that we are having this year in the community information section of C. We're working with Federal Credit Union to offer free classes in retirement series to the public. Our providers here offer a couple of those sessions, and we may even host some of them here in our building. So I'd like for you to know that that's coming and that we are actively involved in working with our community in that. The next one is our next scheduled RAC meeting. We don't note it here, but that is going to be our annual providers fair for the RAC itself. That just our providers whom we fund through the PPACG are coming, and we would invite any of you to come and join us, send representatives, so that this is a personal opportunity to have these people all here in this room that you can ask questions and gain more information in depth with, and it's a good use of your time, and I would encourage you to come and participate in that. The third, pardon? 9. It's at 9 o'clock on February the 23rd, Thursday. Thank you. And I think it's an efficient use of a hands-on opportunity to really talk with the people to find out what their perception is, what our services are they offering, what do they see in our community, that to talk with them directly. I think it's a great opportunity. So we'd love for you to have come. And the third thing is that in the same vein, our request for proposals for next year went out on the January the 3rd. So we're already starting up that process of moving forward with our services for next year. Are there any questions?
Councilwoman Thompson?
How long will that event go?
It will be from 9 to 12, but it come for whatever amount of time that you can. We will have a very short business meeting in the fish bowl here, and then all the tables will be set around the room. It's quite a nice, informative event. Anything else? Yes.
I was just curious, I don't know how the lines are divided. We have a northern El Paso County representative, a western El Paso County representative, and an eastern El Paso County. I don't see a southern El Paso County, and I don't know how the line is divided.
It's flexible, shall we say. We try to have sometimes the southern and the eastern are combined in terms of whether we're talking about Ellicott or further. We have Fountain involved as well. So, and if you have some people in mind that you would like to serve on the Regional Advisory Council, we would be delighted to have their names, and so we're better represented in that south quadrant.
I'll take that as a task.
I would appreciate that. That's wonderful. And any of the rest of you who see that there's a representation that we're not really validly providing, it's up to us.
I didn't say you weren't valid. I just didn't know.
Well, no, but it's important. If we say we're in representing all sections of our region, we really take that very seriously. So I appreciate your noticing and asking.
All right, thank you.
Anyone else?
Ms. Murray?
Real fast.
Yes, sir.
My understanding of the city of Colorado Springs is talking about setting up a separate committee for aging. Did I?
The innovations of aging, and that is not at all what we are doing, because we look at the funding sources, actually, the state and the federal. So that's what we're doing, but this is a community-wide aging-friendly community. Oh, absolutely. They have come and presented to our RAC, and we are working with them actively. There were several of us on the advisory committee, as well as the staff of the Area Agency on Aging, that worked with the planning and the initial communication of that project. So yes, thank you for mentioning it. We are very excited about the opportunities for that, because it will help to make a broader put feet to the work that what they're doing. Okay?
Is that part of the statewide bill 2 years ago, the SAPCA, the statewide aging planning group? Aging?
No, we've gotten into the details that I need to know.
Yeah, this is a 2-hour class.
Yeah.
No. It is not part of SAPCA, the SAPCA report. However, the SAPCA report does specifically endorse these types of programs.
Yes. Okay. Well, that was nice. Thanks, Joe.
Excellent coverage.
Thank you.
An hour and 59 minutes, all right. I think I remember. Yeah. Gail?
Good morning. So this is Gail Nels, Chair of the MCC, Mobility Coordinating Committee. Everything that happened is reflected very well in the minutes. Any questions? Thank you.
Any questions, comments?
Yay.
Best report I've had all day. Water Quality Management, Peter Galiski. Is he still around? Here he is.
Very briefly, almost afternoon, it seems.
Almost.
In addition to the lift station that we presented before you, the Water Quality Management Committee is looking at revising our what we call a watershed management plan. It's really a wastewater management plan. I think we're going to retitle that, or I'm going to propose that. So the plan we have now is is getting along in the tooth, and with recent and proposed regulatory changes, it's time to do that, to make this process better and make that document better. We're also looking at increasing our membership. We're having some success with that. So those are the primary initiatives we have going on, as well as we're seeing an increase in activity with wastewater infrastructure come before us, primarily lift stations. So,
Mayor?
Quick, I promise, very quick. Did you review the legislative session stuff? All the bills and whatnot that came before us?
No.
Did you have a chance? Okay, I was just curious, because there's several things on here that have to do with water and environment, and that we didn't recommend to support, or there's no stance on it. So I was just
let me
curious
correct that.
if you
I did. Jessica put before me a handful of items to look at. So the answer is yes. And I looked at those carefully and came to the conclusion that those are not within PPACG's present purview.
Great, thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Thank you. Stack, Commissioner Steen.
I really don't have any updates, other than the fact that legislation at both state and federal levels is really high in focus. I think everybody at the STAC's very engaged, and Just a reminder that if you have a position here that PPACG needs to take, I'd be open to your conversation and even attending stack meetings if you want to make that point directly to the whole stack. We are working through the process of having the stack work more directly with the Transportation Commission. That House Bill 1031, I think, is that follow-on, additional listening tours. If that bill passes, there'll be 5 meetings convened around the state by the commission themselves, asking for our input directly on transportation planning matters. So, really good things happening in the stack. Turner Smith has joined us, and of course Andy Pico, first alternate, and now Sally Clark. So we always come in force. I think we're the only MP in the state that comes with 4 members, sometimes 5. So they know all about Pikes Peak, and we make ourselves clear. So, yeah. Any questions or comments? Thanks.
And our contingent is not known for being shy. Website review.
Jessica McMullen, Policy and Communications Manager. So this is a discussion item. PPACG staff has been in the process of developing a new PPACG website for 2017. The reasons behind that are we're currently on a very outdated programming language and our hit by the bus scenario, which is what would happen if our wonderful, wonderful web designer got hit by a bus, is pretty pathetic. It'd be really, really hard to find someone who can code in that language. So we're looking at moving our language over to WordPress from Joomla. We want to improve the visual design, make sure that we're actually within ADA compliance on our website, because it's necessary, and we haven't been. Increase engagement and awareness of PPACG programs and events, and especially ways to give feedback, and to make sure that information is available with a reduced number of clicks, and to create a culture of transparency online for PPACG. So, we are, it has a big head, and I can't see through it. Just sharing that. Sorry, Rick.
Oh, boy.
Okay, hold on. So, this is the idea for our new site. If you'll see. So, it's all pretty. We have each of the 5 programs within PPACG listed clearly at the very top. It goes down to talk about our mission. Gives some quick basic measurements that matter to what PPACG does. It talks about news and upcoming events. So whatever news articles have been most recent, whatever events are coming up next. It talks about our committees. It's the board of directors. It tells easy spot for you guys to grab the committee roster, bylaws, latest materials, minutes, or watch the last board meeting. And that's going to be for all of our boards. So, download committee roster, bylaws. Obviously, that was wrong. It's still a beta website. Give us some time. It goes down into some of our most accessed documents, the Yellow Book for our Area Agency on Aging, our annual reports for PPRTA and PPACG. It tells you how to get involved. It gives you an opportunity to sign up so that we can really hope that people will get information. It gives us an opportunity to take comments from our Facebook, our Twitter, and our surveys and input them to give people just kind of a feel for what our citizens are saying. And then it's got a lot of that basic stuff that we were talking about ADA compliance, making sure we've got an acceptable use policy, feedback, non-discrimination, privacy policies, those mandatory things. So it goes into, we're still working on fleshing out the website. That is something I would like everyone to be aware of. Nobody should say that start going to this website to get information. Give us another month. But what we do want is for you guys to poke around on it. We'd like to have each of you share it with people in your organizations and companies and counties and governments and say, this doesn't make sense. This does make sense. I'm saying a lot today. Sorry, guys. Each one of our areas gives a quick definition through it. This is what they do, Aging, Area Agency on Aging. The one that has the most development right now is the transportation page. They have been outstanding in providing us information, just in case anybody didn't already know that they're really good at that. This is what we're looking at kind of as a format for all of our web pages, something where it's very easy, visually lined up, and you can all figure information out quickly and easily. Some of the things that are interesting about the website plan is we are planning on being very, very proactive in how things happen. So we'll be reviewing the website and finding out what gets the most clicks. Those things are at the top of the line. What are people accessing the most? Those will be the top of the line. Again, this keeps in with that same policy. We're trying to make sure people can find our committees. Our board and our committees are the people who are making most of the decisions within PPACG. We want to give you the results up top, but then we want to give you the ways that you can contribute and say things within it. Quick links to our transportation staff, and then the really exciting part that you may not know about, our document library. It's going to be searchable. It hasn't been in the past.
Wow. Not just titles, but content?
Yeah, you can actually click on library. I've done some hardcore work with the actual search of our website.
So if anybody doesn't know, that is Jenny, our amazing and wonderful website coordinator, and you can't steal her.
And you look really excited about the searchable part.
One of my personal quirks with websites is when I have to find the exact way that the title of it was phrased, it infuriates me. I want to be able to put in the 3 keywords that I know should be in the document I need and get the document I need. And this will enable us to do that. It'll also enable us to filter by categories. Right now our website is actually divided up. You have to click aging and then click year and then click what you want your documents on. It's frustrating. I don't like it. That's why we're doing this. The other exciting and new thing that will be coming and going into effect hopefully by our March meeting is we're going to have a web mapping program for people to give feedback on transportation and joint land use study type items. It'll be an interactive map where people can drop comments and pictures and, hey, why are you looking at doing this? This is a much bigger issue. And it's going to be really designed for us to both encourage community feedback and really draw out issues that we may not have yet. So again, each of these is set up in the same way. It's a couple of different things that seem interesting to us. We're still filling in pictures with things that relate. So, obviously the bus is not going to be the JLS study report. Environmental's still got a typo. Yeah. But this is the idea for our new website. We are hoping to beta release it for the next month, which is what we mean by please send it out to your folks. It's new.ppacg.org. Look at it as much as you can. Send it to people. Tell us what you think. Tell us, initially we had a Band-Aid on aging instead of the little lines. We were kind of like, that's not really cool. We probably shouldn't have that. That makes people feel like old is bad. We want your feedback. We want your ideas. And anything you think that will help make it a more cohesive and easy to access site is what we're looking for. Does anyone have any questions about the site? Okay.
It's very impressive. Thanks. Mr. Murray.
Would you consider building a board to keep the board informed monthly as to the issues you were just discussing?
The website hits, what's used the most, what would you like? Because, of course we will.
Yeah, of course you will. The point being is that what's relevant to us as a board, okay, and again, part of what you're saying is what are people looking at, what are they responding to? I mean, it's a simple thing to set up. You can set it up early, and you start tracking it, then we see it, and then we can adjust accordingly, because it may affect our votes. Because if people are looking at this, or whatever. And then we can also assist you in plussing up areas that we think are relevant that are not being addressed. Okay, and so that there's a whole social media back office operation. You know what?
I want to add one thing in that he just reminded me about. Thank you, Council Member. In our transportation page, one of the things that we have had ongoing is that there's a lot of information that you have. We don't need it, but our citizens need it, and people come to us for it. The Metro bus route information, the Fountain bus information, bus staying information. So we're going to have a lot of places where we're just going to connect to your websites. You're going to tell us what information is important for your citizens, what are people asking you for, and we're going to make sure that it pings back through us, that we direct people to you, not that we try to type up your information and re-import it so we have to worry about being out of date. We want them to go to you because you know what you do best, and we don't. So, but I will work on giving a presentation. I don't know if you guys will want it monthly, but what the most popular sites are, who's using our sites, what pages are being used. We can definitely do that.
Any strategies for people to find our website? For it to appear near the top of the page on a Google search, for example?
She's already working on how to make sure that she's got a variety of different things in progress already. So, yeah.
So once again, I'm Jenny Lyons. I'm the new Web and Publications Coordinator. Currently, we have Google Analytics on our site currently. As of right now, some of the top pages are aging. They're looking for the network of care. They're clicking on network of care. This will be an ongoing thing. I can give a report and I can attach it in our minutes and that kind of thing. So, yeah.
But if someone Googles on, you're on the fountain and you say agent, you just put that in Google and it comes right to our page. How does it come to our page versus something in Baltimore?
Or a nursing.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that would be search engine optimization, which actually our new website will have a lot of because our content will be relevant. New relevant content is what makes your page go to the top of Google. So when we're linking to the resources for bus staying or the metro bus routes, we're actually having relevant content on our site. People are going to those on a regular basis. They're getting millions of hits, in a few months. So if we have that link on our website, our website actually is more legitimate to Google. So we will actually be, you'll see it creep up on, as we go. And so I'll also give you guys an SEO report as well. So.
Okay.
So.
Thank you.
I have
Hold it.
Yes.
Sharon?
PR is coming next. Be ready.
Sharon?
Is this going to be like phone friendly? Because right now, if you try to put your website on your phone, it's
Yes,
not.
actually I'm designing it for mobile use as well, for tablets, mobile, and there will actually be some features that are mobile friendly, like clicking on phone numbers, being able to search for those resources and being able to email directly from your phone so that you do not have to have an extra click to call someone or copy and paste, those kind of things. So
Okay,
yes.
great. Because, everybody that's the thing.
Yeah.
The
Yes.
next bus arrives at?
Correct, yes.
Wow.
Yep. So you'll be able to get those resources directly from our website because we're going to be linking directly to the resources that our community needs, which is kind of what was lacking before, is what I'm coming in seeing as well.
Okay.
Great.
It's great.
So wheat.
I know, we
So
got a brand
what?
new website.
So wheat.
So wheat, yes. Stop thinking for a second. Okay, review, rewrite of PPACG board bylaws and personnel guidelines. I put this on here for the information, talk to you guys. It's become fairly apparent over the last few months that we probably need to update the personnel guidelines and the PPACG board bylaws, how we operate. So I'm soliciting your input, joining into the fun and excitement of taking a look at what that is, and self-select to a committee.
Looking at me for? Just because I wrote the memo?
Just because you wrote me a memo. But I think several of us has recognized the need that we need to update this thing. So I solicit your input and let's take a hard look and a hard scrub at what this is and start doing this. We do have a original draft of the personnel guidelines, which went to personnel that Mountain States did some time back. We will take a look at as that as a starting point to review, and we'll get this process going. But I want to let you know that we're going to take a look at that, and we're going to get this going.
I'd like to, since I'm the one that wrote the memo, I'll kind of just throw out what my thoughts were behind this. I believe when we were given the personnel handbook, it said adopted in 2005, and it's had some amendments, and that's kind of lengthy in today's world. I'm sure there's a lot of changes that have happened in that short time frame. So my thought was to make sure that all our entities are involved, so maybe have Barb work with Mountain Metro States to review it, what needs to be done, maybe like immediately, and what can, wait for the long-term overhaul, and then maybe having them work on it for a couple of months, and it can go back through our HR departments to make sure we all are comfortable with it, and then when our HR departments have a chance to look it over, then it would go back to Barb and Mountain Metro, and then we vote on it. And I was thinking of a guideline, like maybe we could possibly be adopting it in May or June. Just kind of bite the bullet and get it done.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent target, and I think we need to process it, and I'll ask you to kind of lead the charge.
Oh, I wasn't volunteering. I was just having an idea.
But I think, lest anyone, we all need to dive into this thing. And it's pretty clear that as we went through the last several months, a number of us have said, that didn't quite work right, and we need to change it and update it. Trustee Stevens?
I think that's a great suggestion. I think that process may be shortened a little bit. We went through a similar process with Green Mountain Falls, and we haven't completed it, but Mountain States was able to provide us a Word document that we could just do find and replace, and then that was a great starting template for those personnel guidelines, and then probably in short order with a review from Rick and with Barb's input and such, we can probably be looking at a draft pretty quick without a whole lot of effort, and make sure that we've got the areas that we need covered, and it might be hopefully even easier than you're envisioning.
Oh, I would love easier.
Love easier, that's right.
From a new director.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that was
Hopefully.
kind of the have it adopted, so that when he comes in, and then if there's anything he needs to
Proceed.
the person. I was just using the generic he. So then they could, if there was anything they felt needed, we could always amend it. But so I just got voluntold. Okay, tell me what I.
Well, us as well. I mean, I think that's something we really need to press on. My time will be a little bit limited the next few months, but.
Okay. Well, I think once the process gets going, there's not a lot we would have to really be doing with it.
I would not think
make
so,
sure
but we
it
need to
stays on
make sure
track.
we get this thing rolling.
Okay, so you and I will talk?
You and I will talk, and anybody else is absolutely invited to chime in.
This is, Mr. Chair, if I could?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So there was something very interesting in the statement that was just made, and that is that we have a document here, the personnel guidelines that were last modified apparently in 2005. So taking that up to a different level, we maybe might want to consider a regular review process. Perhaps the executive director does this, and it's periodic, and I'm going to make something up because we can have discussion, but perhaps once every 3 years, or maybe you stagger all of the guidelines and so forth. We go through a regular review process, and then it could be, but we could design this specifically, that the executive director does periodic reporting to say, guideline this and guideline that is out of date. Because when you have stuff that is that old, whether it's personnel or anything, you really do run the risk of probably being inconsistent with some new federal law or some state law, or maybe even our own policies and so forth. When I've done that in previous organizations I've run, I've always learned a lot about what we didn't have exactly quite right. So to have a periodic process that just does reviews on a periodic basis and does that regularly and gives then the executive director an opportunity to report to the board, I would recommend something like that.
Yeah, I agree. Mr. Murray?
This day and time, we should be able to do that daily. Once you link all the various facets of any document itself, you're talking about searchable issues. Every line in the document should be able to reflect a legal issue or a legal environment, and that legal environment should be able to cue you into any particular changes. If you build it right early on, then we can actually accelerate the 3 years to very pertinent, and which goes back to what I was asking for, a historical representation of questions this board has asked of Mountain States or anybody else in a personnel arena, so we don't repeat history. you know what I'm talking about, saying if I can look at C, that you guys asked this question, and I can make sure it's included in this document. If I don't know you asked the question, then it may come back to haunt us later on as being something we could have resolved or looked at or something, and I don't want to chase our tail, but.
No, but just maybe to follow on to that, I appreciate that. I think it's always in the purview of the executive director to present to the board anything that becomes out of date at any time, because we never want to go 2 years, let's say, and have an out-of-date policy. I'd say that's also the purview of any of the board members here to also be doing that, if they seem to find anything. But notwithstanding those points, there should be always some periodic review. And we update the date of the document, saying we've re-reviewed, and our 2012 document we think is still current, so we'll re-sign it for 2017, and then we keep an updated and current set.
Yeah, I know the personnel guidelines says 2005, but I know it's been amended a number of times, but it never been rewritten, so it's got a lot of Band-Aids in it. So we need to clean it up. Okay, member entity announcements?
Well, I'm sorry, we also talked about the bylaws.
I'm sorry, yeah. We need to review the bylaws as well.
I'm not voluntolding for that.
You're not voluntolding that one?
No. I'll voluntold Mark Waller for that. How's that? No.
You voluntold who?
Mark Waller.
Mark Waller?
He's not here.
He's not here, she's got it. Okay.
That's what happens when you leave early.
That's right. Yeah.
And I'm the one that's probably going to have to carry that too.
Yeah. Yeah, but those bylaws also, need to be updated. There's no question about it. Okay, so a project that all of us need to pay attention to, and we'll get this rolling. Okay? Any other comments? Yes, Mr. Steve? Member announcements.
Okay, this weekend is the opening day of the Cripple Creek Ice Fest. Truckloads of ice to get in riding today. We're going down Main Street. It's always a fun day to come up and see carvings that are bigger than you are in solid ice. So come enjoy a day in Cripple Creek.
What's the weather going to be like?
Warm.
Too warm?
I thought there was a snowstorm coming Saturday.
Major snowstorm coming in.
Oh, really?
Saturday.
Yeah, it's just significant snow. It's
Oh.
the last thing I heard because of the currents.
Oh.
Jet stream across the top.
But the ice won't melt then.
Well, I think the theme is Safari in Ice.
Does it go 2 weekends?
2 weekends.
2 weekends.
Do they do anything during the week?
You can come up anytime during the week and watch them carve at work.
Okay.
But yes, come up anytime. Again, the ice arrives today, so really you'll start to see some formations of ice coming this weekend, but continuing for another 8 days.
So truckloads are coming tomorrow, and cloud loads are coming on the weekend. Okay.
And I have a few comments also, if I could.
Yes.
First of all, to the Peterson Air Force Base, thanks for the briefing you gave. To the Board of County Commissioners with regard to the PFAS issue. I'd like to applaud the base for really being aggressive, to include being fiscally aggressive about trying to deal with the water contamination issues down in the fountain area. It was an informative briefing. If you haven't seen it yourself, I'd encourage you to ask for the presentation so that you can understand what's going on in the community down there. And actually, on an overall basis, it's a good news story. Too much to say in this conversation here, but I would encourage you to get a presentation about it if you haven't seen it. Nice thing on the website, looking good. And I'd say always go in force to the staff meetings. I'm really, really liking that. Never fail to do that. The one comment, though, that I think we need to pay some attention to and address is with regard to what we went through today with regard to the proposed legislation. I'll just go on record and say I was a little uncomfortable with how we went through that process. I would encourage us to get more robust in a process on that. I'd like to make a suggestion, and it's at least in part because I'm new to the board, but maybe other members of the board who have been around longer haven't done this, but I'd like to see maybe a work session or an executive session that presents to the board the process through which the staff evaluates these legislative proposals, and then we get an opportunity to comment to that and make sure that we're comfortable with how that review process is ongoing. And I know it's hard to do because they move fast, and we're meeting once a month, so it's not necessarily that easy. I also support getting that the two for the legislative panel or group going. I think that'll be important. And some things that I think that need to be included in that is what are the fiscal impacts and what's the, is there a fiscal note? And is there an evaluation of potential unintended consequences like unfunded mandates? I think I'd like to specifically hear from the staff, we don't see a potential unfunded mandate. That makes me a lot more comfortable about, you know, going forward and supporting a support of a proposed legislation. In that also, I think we need to be talking about, are there potential burdens on citizens? And what's also the value? Sometimes the burden on a citizen, which is always not fun, but produces an enormous amount of value, so on an overall basis, it ends up being the right thing to do. But I think there's some component of robustness in there, and then if we're at a place where we're comfortable and the staff knows what we're looking for when they make a proposal, we can zip through it, know what the staff is saying, have some very specific words that work for us, and we'll be able to work through them more quickly. And maybe one last thing, it might not be a bad idea to consider voting on them not as a slate, but one-on-one, because we got into a little bit of a conundrum over amendments and so forth, and we can get ourselves tied up if we do that. So those are suggestions to me. Perhaps it's maybe difficult to get through that in this legislative session because they're moving too fast and we might be in the process of building a process, but maybe before the next legislative session, somewhere in the spring and summer, let's build that robustness, and this is my recommendation.
Okay. Good ideas. Any other things? We got, you have also the schedule in front of you. Any other changes?
I just wanted to make sure that everybody saw in the executive director's report that the Joint Land Use Study is doing their public input meeting on the U.S. Air Force Academy area on February the 23rd at Library 21C from 5 to 7 p.m. So if anybody is interested in talking about any of those joint land use issues and wanting to see what the work groups have done and learn more about them and give some input, that's where you go, that's when.
Okay. Last call. Okay, we are adjourned. Look at that. Woo-hoo. Only 30 minutes late.
Thank you.
We have a 2+2.
I've been here as a citizen.
$150,000. Okay. 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 Sure. Somebody may say, well, we got amendment plan. Let's fix the wheel, leave it
I brought it up with the other stuff.
Okay.
Well, it's interesting is, you know, like last year, we had a really good, solid presentation. We didn't have the process to be evaluated. So, like this time,